So I want to thank everyone for coming on today. And of course, as we continue people to log on, we're very privileged to have Todd spend some time here we got about 20 to 30 minutes here with Todd Duncan. And of course, Todd is our keynote speaker for our conference in Palm Springs this year. And if you have not registered for the conference, please go to our events site on the webinar and get registered at events.com to get signed up for the conference. It is going to be a fantastic venue, and we're going to sort of have some insight from Todd today. And as you know, Todd has been in the industry for a very long time and has spoke with a ton of mortgage professionals, has built a ton of practices that he's helped out with people, and is a great wealth of knowledge. And I really appreciate you taking your time here today, Todd, to share some insight with everybody.
Yeah, Jared, no problem. Good to be with Verico again, and always willing to add value. Thank you for the chance.
Very welcome. Very welcome.
Yeah.
So we've got a couple of questions here for you, and I guess we'll get right into sort of what the questions are. The first question here is, obviously, as you know, successful loan originators and leaders are always, trying to strive to get themselves better constantly, and I think there's on that side. And what do you think some of the trends are right now that you're seeing that, the loan officers and successful people are trying to accomplish today?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the trend is less trends. And so first thing I would love to say to everybody is it's good to be with you guys, and it's good to give you some perspective in our call together today. But too many people in this business try to follow too many trends, and as a result of that, they kind of dilute their effort in any one area. So the things that I'm seeing in high performance kind of coaching are originators and mortgage practitioners, leaders and owners, really focusing in on the case that production is the trend. Production is the focus. And 2 years ago, I talked with you guys about supercharging your productivity. And so one trend that is absolutely clear is to deep dive into your business and really think about what it looks like to do more with less, to do more, not selling per se, but to have more impact in what you do. And as a result of that, have more productivity per minute or per hour spent. I'll give you a quick story. So one of the gentlemen that follows the high trust methodology, when he first started following this kind of track, if you will, he was spending about an hour in every borrower consultation. And as he began to figure out productivity, and as he began to look at how many minutes he was spending actually consulting borrowers, he decided to narrow that focus, give more off to his team, and make sure that the chunk of time that he was really spending with the consumer was the best time, the highest value time, the greatest time for advice. And as a result of that, today he's settling around 400 loans a year, but his consultations where he is actually with the consumer is down to about 20 minutes. Now, the whole customer experience is still about an hour, but he has narrowed his focus. And as a result of that, hasn't diminished his value at all, hasn't diluted that. In fact, has created more of a social proof kind of, I am the expert and I need to advise you on, your mortgage strategy and your product. So production would be one trend, and deepening that 80-20 rule that we talked about in 2014. The second trend is really obvious, I would hope. It's the trend to conversion. And what we see across the globe is far too many mortgage practitioners are spending far too much time talking to way too many people. And as a result of that, the conversion rates are fairly low across the globe. Some in as low as under 1% to 2% if they're online only, all the way up to practitioners that have to pound the pavement every day, 15, 18, maybe 20% of the borrowers that they actually talk to apply and close. So there is a trend towards how do we compress that and get more people to say yes more quickly. And it has a lot to do with social proof. So the trend is, what are mortgage practitioners doing? Grabbing success stories from borrowers in the last 30, 60, 90 days, and then sharpening their conversation, using other people to offer testimonial and in fact, security that mortgage practitioner, that brand is trustworthy, and therefore then I can give to them arguably the largest transaction of my life. So far too much time outside of those two things, that we focus in on production, narrowing what we do and doing it better, focus in on conversion, talking to less, but getting more people to say yes. The economics are insane.
Right. I think that's a key point you just made there, Todd. And just to emphasize for everyone on the call, the social proof and testimonial is a great thing. I think a lot of the successful ones that I've seen too are intertwine stories right into even their initial conversations of how they're explaining their process. And especially because you can intertwine them, and maybe you just want to elaborate a little bit on that sort of storytelling a bit, because it's not really it's telling truthful stories about your client experiences. That it can relate to.
Yeah, in every story there's a hero and there's a villain, right? And when you play those two against each other, the really smart, high trust mortgage practitioner is the hero. And the villain is anybody in the mortgage business other than you, right? And so the obvious ways to position when you are talking in story language. And it doesn't have to be a long story. It can be sentence by sentence. It can be a couple sentence script. It can be something that you incorporate into your dialogue. But when you story sell, one of the most important things to do is talk about the emotion of the experience. People love stories with emotion. And when you're buying a home and you're financing the home, there is a lot of emotion to that. And so when I have a dialogue with a consumer, I can say that, my job I see differently than a lot of people that are in the mortgage space. Anybody can quote you a rate, anybody can get you a loan, but the real story is in how that loan meets your long and short-term financial and investment goals. And unlike most lenders, which is the villain piece, unlike most mortgage practitioners, I create what we call a home loan strategy. And my desire is to have your back, to be transparent in helping you manage your mortgage and your finances, and do something that most lenders don't do, and that is help the mortgage work for you instead of you working for it. That is a very easy, very natural, very disruptive statement that basically elevates you and kind of disassociates you with the masses. And that's what story selling is all about. And so when you look at having conversation with borrowers, when you look at using testimonials and social proof, guide people. Somebody says to you, man, that was a great experience. Okay, that's what you're going for. And if they give you that, then the obvious is, would you mind, and you can go one of two directions. Would you mind putting your thoughts into writing? Nothing long, nothing big, just give us an idea of how impactful this was for you. Or if they're fairly outgoing, you can ask them to record a video right there, right then, for you. And 2 minutes, 1 minute, doesn't have to be anything long. We just finished the High Trust Sales Academy in Southern California. And at the end of the 4-day event, we had a videographer there, and we had about 30 people lined up out of the 100 that wanted to go on camera and talk about the power of that experience and what they learned and what they were going to do differently. I don't want to sell anything to anyone except maybe hope and that there is a better way. But when you have other people telling your story, when you have other people validating what you have done, conversion goes up, trust goes up, tension and resistance come down, objections go away. So when other people help storytell about you, business gets easier, business gets more profitable, and your referrals expand. So that's kind of storytelling.
Yeah, no, and that great points there, Todd. And I think that's a great emphasis. And that alone is extremely valuable right there on the call. Just what you shared there, and I think you start putting that into practice, which kind of leads into our next question. I think is I know you really believe in planning out, and really strongly believe that. And I think really the storytelling fits into actually everybody planning out their call, planning out that session with the client, instead of just trying to wing it out, get the best rate, get the mortgage approved and everything. You really believe in having a plan, not just about that process, but also you have a plan in your life. Maybe you can expand on that a bit, Todd.
It's kind of interesting, Jared, that in conversations that right now as we do this are only 7 days old, thousands of mortgage practitioners have been asked mid-year, we're in June, mid-year about their plan and the metrics and optics of their plan and whether or not they're following a plan every day to drive business success. And the sad truth is that less than about 1% of any room, any audience, any poll can actually say that they're following a production plan every day. We get busy. We fill the day with the stuff that a pipeline produces for us. But at the end of the day, having a plan and letting the plan drive performance is where you really make the money. It's really where you build wealth. And so if you got into this business because you see the entrepreneurial yield of, commissions and building your financial security and maybe even ultimately your financial independence, it requires you to narrow what you're actually doing in the form of planning. I'll give you an example. So you could make, and I've always been accused of being a big dreamer, and so forgive me in advance if my dream is too big, but bottom line is you can make $100,000 in commissions a month, not a year, but a month, if you do two things. The first thing you have to do is you have to have 10 like-minded people that know the people that you need to know. It can be an accountant, it can be a financial planner, it could be a small business owner, it could be an entrepreneur, it could be a large corporation, it could be a builder, a developer, it could be a real estate agent, whatever you want that to be. And the net effect is if you have 10 people that through your marketing, through social media, through referral story selling, you get 2 referrals a week each. Okay, that's 20 referrals a week from 10 business partners. You have 80 referrals a month. Okay, so the first piece of the plan is, do you have those relationships where you know that one person is going to go on record every day, every time they can, anywhere within their space of doing business, that if somebody needs mortgage financing, okay, they're referring that person to you. So that's piece number one. And if you do that, you can have as many as 80 consultations a month. Okay. Now, the second part of the plan is get so good at how those business owners refer you, get so good at your initial first impression, get so good at the story selling dialogue that 1 out of those 4 or 20 out of the 80 apply with you and let you fund their mortgage. Okay, and that's it. So if you're doing that, you're in a 10-month work year, you're funding 200 units a year. So if you're funding 200 units a year, in most places in the world, the economics are you are, knocking on the door of $500,000, $600,000, $400,000, depending on region, comp plans, and all those things. But watch this. So this gets back to point number 1. If all I do is figure out how to go from 1 out of 4 saying yes to me and letting me fund their mortgage to 2 out of 4, I'm now at 400 transactions a year. Somewhere between 400 and 600, every single person on the universe can make $1 million a year. So if I have 10 partners and I have a group of 20 people that say yes to 40 people that say yes, just by sharpening my skills, just by being referred the right way, then I have a plan I can follow for the rest of my life. I don't have to have a lot of side journeys. I don't have to have a lot of drama. I don't have to have a lot of starts and stops. Now, here's where it gets exciting. If you have 400 buyers that you have helped finance real estate in your database and you are actively engaging and working, and those people are responsible for 4 referrals or a piece of repeat business every 5 years, and you're making $2,500 a deal, that database is worth $3.2 million or $800,000 a year. So it gets pretty exciting when you think about following a plan. And I think, Jared, that far too often we show up, we suit up, the day kind of throws us whatever curveballs it's going to throw us, and we don't stay on plan and we don't stay proactive. And as a result of that, we're leaving far too much revenue on the table in a world that economically has no boundaries.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, I hope everybody on that got the insight into that, because that was very exceptional. And I think a lot of people, especially you talk about there is that web-based and social media and everything aspect of it, but you're right. The fundamental basics are, if you have 10 people, and that's the thing that people always try to gather, I got to have a real estate office, or I got to have, so many 200 different referral options. And it's 10 quality people that are actually your business partners. And I think that was a critical point you made.
Yeah, and let me just one more thing, Jared, on that. It's interesting because the tide kind of pulls people to, if I want more business, I've got to talk to more people. And in some cases, you got to pick up the phone. Yes, you have to work. Nothing is just presented to you in this business. But it's interesting that when you look at the dynamics of what we covered at the Verico conference in 2014, there's only 12% of licensed real estate agents in North America that produce, let me say it differently, 12% of licensed real estate agents in North America produce 88% of the transactional volume per year. So if you're in if you think you need a real estate office with 100 people, what the dynamics say is there's only really 12 people in there that control most of the business. So the key is to up your game. The key is to change your story. The key is to provide differentiated value and not try to cater to the 80% that need you, that use your time, maybe abuse your time, that, with the exception of being new and maybe kind of scaling their business over the next 2 to 3 years, you have to stay away from. There's too much pull down and drag in this business when you do business with the wrong people. So less is more. All you need is 10, and you can make a fortune on 10 people that are partners.
Great insight, Todd. Great insight, for sure. Moving on to the next one is I know obviously you're a big believer in people, of course, as we just talked about, getting more results with less effort, because I think everybody on this call would agree if I could have 10 people versus working major real estate offices and firms and get the production there, it's a much better quality of life, right? And conversion in your game. But what do you think is the one thing that they can do to kind of transition their business or make that happen for them now, Todd?
Yeah. So this is a game changer. And I mean, we could in our live sessions, we spend about a half a day just on this one idea I'm about to share with you. So I'll do it fairly quickly. I think you'll get the gist of it. And it has to do with a technology that we have trademarked that's called the circle of cash flow. And what the circle of cash flow essentially says is that every single person that you interact with can be a gateway to the people that you need to know, and some a bigger gateway than others. So I'll tell you a story. My brother is a top financial planner. He's in the top 100 financial planners out of 13,000 at his brokerage firm. He has been rated in the top 1% in terms of quality of plans. So the guy knows what he's doing, right? 10 years ago or so, he was ramping up his business to the next level. And we had a conversation, and he simply asked me, he said, so who do you know that maybe I could contact that you feel might benefit by having the kind of financial relationship that you and I have? So I got to thinking about it, and I had just met with a guy that I bought a car from, and he had mentioned that he was doing so well, he didn't know what to do with all the money. So 1 + 1 made the connection. And I referred my brother to this gentleman who sells Mercedes-Benz. Right. There's 83 salespeople on the lot of this dealership that all sell high-end cars. So the circle of cash flow was I knew somebody that my brother needed to know. So my brother contacted Thomas, who is my salesperson, met with Thomas, got the financial plan with Thomas, and right there said, and this is where the magic is, Thomas, of the other 82 salespeople on the lot, who do you think I should talk to using your name so that I can maybe help them the way I've helped you today? And Thomas gave it. I mean, anybody who's happy, anybody that's thrilled, anybody that appreciates what you've done, of course, will want somebody that they trust, know, and love to benefit from that relationship. So fast forward 2 years from that point in time, over 23 financial plans just in a car dealership. Okay. We have a student in Los Angeles, California, that got this idea and was meeting with a person, and just in the dialogue found out, who do you know who you think I should have a mortgage consultation with, like I've done with you today? She refers this gal to a woman who is her friend, who is the head of HR for a grocery store chain in California that has 17,000 employees. So after calling the HR director with the referral from her borrower, by the way, the real estate agent is in this loop as well, She sits down and they figure out a way to offer mortgage consultative services to the entire employee group at a grocery store. And her real estate agent who referred the initial buyer, who referred her to the HR director, when she got into the grocery store chain, ends up that it produced over $100,000 in listing sold sales made commissions for the real estate agent that referred that initial person in the first 5 months. Now you can appreciate the fact that if I can gain access to something like that with a simple question, with every borrower, when you are completing the application appointment, maybe you're completing that first call, maybe they tell you halfway through the transaction, you're doing a great job. Whenever you decide to do it, I appreciate the fact that you trust me with the largest financial decision of your life. Yeah. What I would love to do is spend all of my time working on the files that we have so that I don't have to go out and find more files. That way I can guarantee a great service experience for you. The only way I can do that is just ask you today, what other friends and colleagues and maybe associates do you know that would love to experience the kind of mortgage situation that we've just gone through that I could contact? And the odds are that this could open the floodgates to more business than you've ever dreamed possible. If you have a business owner that has 100 employees, if you have a bank that doesn't do real estate lending or fundings and has 1,000 depositors or 2,000 depositors, if you have a small business owner that owns a jewelry store and people come in there and they're buying engagement rings, which is code for we're going to be buying a house. There's so many ways to use the circle of cash flow to drive business. Just got to pay attention to it. So if I know 5 people and they refer me to 5, that's 25. If the 5 refer me to 5, that's 125. If the 125 refer me to 5, that's 650 with 5 initial borrowers. That's the kind of thinking you need to really, really, really utilize a technology that most people are not using. And it's simple, right? People that know, love, and trust you want to refer you to people that they want to have that same kind of experience. So I would say that's probably the biggest needle mover that we could share, live or on our webinar.
Well, Todd, that was fantastic. And I think everybody on this call, if you're watching this recording, because it's being recorded, rewatch that again and rewatch it. Almost say rewatch it every day, and because there was a lot in there, but it's critical to change your thought process. And I think, and I couldn't agree with you more. All the successful ones, and even when I was doing business, it's the same. It's about asking for that order, and I think you started off right there, is taking the time to actually ask, the question, and that's a critical, right? So, no, I really appreciate that, Todd. So, of course, you're going to have your keynote address at our California Classic in Palm Springs. And, what do you think? Obviously, I've loved the call so far today, and I think it's just been fantastic. And I think, from everyone on here, you have such a great knowledge base because you participate with so many different cross-reference of loan originators from in Canada and the U.S. So what can they kind of expect, Todd, for you, coming on here?
Well, it's a little bit of a secret, so don't tell anybody, because I'm not sharing any of this with anybody until the California Classic with Verico, and it's tied to our next book, which is coming out, which is entitled 5 Stars. The subtitle is How to Build High Trust and High Ratings in the Digital World. Mm-hmm. And the quick idea is to understand that at whatever level you are in the business, people are talking about you. That's the simple thesis of the book. People are talking about you. Mm-hmm. And the question that has to be asked and answered is not if they are or not talking about you. The question is, what are they saying? Yeah. So what 5 Stars is a journey through building a platform towards customer excellence, towards understanding that at the end of the day, if in a pure sense of everything everybody on this webinar understands, in a 5-star world, nobody can survive if you get constant 4s, 3.5s, 2s, 1.5s. You just can't, right? The world is compressing fast. The digitalization through social media and online tools is compressing fast. And you know what? People are thinking about what they're going to say about you the moment they meet you. People are going to be thinking about what they're going to say about you somewhere between the start of the transaction and the successful closing of that. And people then are going to say something about you afterwards. And so the question is, at a very high level, what do we do to use 5 stars as a philosophy in the mortgage space? What do we do to operationalize 5 stars so that as a individual mortgage practitioner, I survey that, I search that, I dialogue about that. We had a company that just a week ago was in our house, and they were doing some blind additions, shutters. And before the guy walked out of the house, he simply said, "So how did we do for you today?" And the answer was, "You did fantastic." He said, "Would you mind right now?" And then he told us where to go to give him a 5-star review, or a review. He didn't say 5 stars, but a review. So before he actually walked out of our property, I went to Yelp and I posted a review and I gave him 5 stars. So it's interesting because what that says to him and to his brand is, you know what, the Duncans, they could help us. They could refer us. It's not surprising then a week later that an email came in and he was asking about how we might be able to help him expand his referral base because we had given him such a high rating. Bought a mattress a month ago, and the guy before we walked out of the store said, "Do you mind giving us a rating?" So the world is compressing. People are forming opinions very quickly. I'm going to go through at your conference the 5 things that we need to do in the mortgage space to leverage technology, to leverage the digitalization that technology is pushing on us, to operationalize the human capital of our referral partners and our borrowers, to take that and tie it into how do we do this with millennials? How do we do it with Gen Xers? How do we do it with baby boomers in terms of age ranges? And then at the end, I'm going to tell you about the 3 things you can do at every application appointment that will light your referrals on fire. So, and it'll be the first time I talk about this in a mortgage setting. So we're very excited about it, Jared.
That's awesome, Todd. Well, I'm very excited to have you on board, and I hope everybody else who's watching this. And again, thank you for taking your time today, Todd. It was exceptional. There was some fantastic nuggets there, and we can't wait to see you in Palm Springs in the end of September. So thank you very much for taking your time today, Todd.
Yeah, it's a joy and honor. Thanks for the invitation, and look forward to seeing you guys in September.
All right. Take care, everyone. Thank you for calling.